Okay, today I'm with Sam Hashizu. Sam's family immigrated from Shimonakin, Japan when he was 8 years old. He grew up on his uncle's farm in the Coachella Valley. He has degrees from UCLA in chemistry and a CPA designation. He was also drafted into the Army. He is a certified public accountant. He's a managing partner with Takanaka Hashizu J and Company in Tustin, California. He developed a hybrid accounting system, which he calls holistic accounting. Sam's entrepreneurial spirit has led him to diverse fields of business. Sam has participated in many business startups such as water conservation products, biotechnology, nutraceutical, and many others. As a philanthropist, Sam founded Plant a Seed Institute in 2012, a nonprofit organization which mentors to inspire self-reliance by providing individuals with services that support education, career, and community development. So thank you, Sam, for being here today.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
There are so many things that I want to learn about you. Why don't we start with what you can tell me about your childhood in Japan?
Yeah, basically, like I had mentioned before, going back to even before my childhood, it started, and meaning that my father was in the Japanese Navy, and he was doing Morse code with the Japanese naval ship, and then they had they wanted volunteers to stay on this remote island, kind of desolate island. So he volunteered to go get off the ship and go on the island as a volunteer. So what happened was within a month of that event, the ship they was on was bombed and went to the bottom of the ocean. So if that would have happened, then he didn't volunteer. I wouldn't be here, obviously.
Yeah,
So
I,
that's kind of started my journey. And when I say there's God's footprints all over the decisions I made. And one of the other major decisions I made was when I was in the service. This was during the Vietnam era, and it was still pretty heightened there in 1970. So I have a degree in chemistry. So by I think junior in college, I had already decided to switch to accounting. So I started taking a lot of accounting courses and got several jobs as a bookkeeper. So when I was interviewing at the service, I emphasized that I was an accountant, had a lot of experience. So they classified me as an accounting specialist as my MO. So as a result of that, I think there were about 5,000 people in the in Porto, the training area, and two of us, another Chinese fellow, myself, because I decided to go as an accounting specialist, we were assigned to Hawaii as a military intelligence group on Ford Island, which is in the middle of Pearl Harbor. So that one decision kept me from not having to go to Vietnam because it was still pretty heightened in Vietnam. So that decision obviously helped me, be safe and enjoy my, stay in the service. So it was like being in paradise, obviously.
yes.
Yeah, so that's one of the major decisions I made. And then there's another decision for like my life. I've experienced everything from A to Z, meaning that as I was starting my accounting business, I had 3 kids. And the one good thing I did was I coached them in basketball. Other than that, I was drinking a lot and playing around and having fun. And I did that until I was like age 50 or so. And and then an event occurred with my friends of 20 plus years where we did a lot of things together, right? We partied, drank together, and played golf a lot. So an event occurred where got, uh, I decided to lead that group of my friends. And that's when I did a 360-degree, 180-degree turn from being drinking and drunk and having fun to becoming more spiritual. I took Landmark Forum as the first event. and that changed my whole life around. I was really into ego, fast cars, and so forth. From there, I started taking a lot of spiritual courses, my Course in Miracle, and a lot of books in the spiritual arena. So I kind of started on that path, which took me to an area that I mentor people actually in what I call law of attraction. I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure you're familiar with that law of attraction. So I did a lot of research in law of attraction area. And when I mentor people, that's the area that I try to mentor them, because what's very important is your presence. How do you show up in life?
Mhm.
Because you got 100 straight A students, so why is the company going to pick you, right? So it has a lot to do with the relationship with high energy, high frequency, high vibration, and that is all part of law of attraction. So as an example, let me give you one quick example. In my firm, I had my right-hand person. She's been with me about 15, 17 years, and I would give everything to her. She'll take care of it. So then I noticed that she wasn't feeling good, or she didn't seem too happy to be here. And I just asked her, what's going on, and she wouldn't really come out and tell me. So I said, look, I think if you go take this landmark form, it might help you. So I said, I'll pay for it. Just take your time and take the course. So which she did. So as a result of that, within a week of taking that course, she had the courage to come to me and say, Sam, I have to leave. I got to help my husband and his business. And before, she couldn't tell me that because she was loyal to me, and I was pretty took care of her. So she didn't want to be here, but yet she can tell me that she wanted to leave, because she kind of thought she would just kind of hang high and dry. But she did that for me, and she did say that. So let's say she told me, let's say today, the very next day, my nephew, who's also a CPA, and then he's never been to my office. He knocks on the front door, comes to the office, and it just happened that his other firm that he was working for, they had a client in this general area. So he was just walking around and saw my name on the door. So he walks in, and my secretary said, hey, your nephew's there. Would you like to talk to him? I said, yeah, let me talk to him, because I was in an appointment, but I excused myself and talked to him. And I said, hey, what's going on? And he said, well, you know what, Uncle? I've been in public accounting. They really beat you up, long hours, 80, something 100 hours a week. So I'm thinking about going to private accounting. I said, you know what? Hey, you want to work for me? Opening just opened up just literally yesterday. So within a week, he told the other firm there was an emergency. So then he was in my office and get acclimated by the other. And then that was like 14 years ago. And that changed the course of my business, because I had a major audit client, Japanese audit client, which is a big account. And my staff was taking care of it, doing audits, and she was not too sure, confident about herself, about her audit skill. So she kept saying, I can't take care of this anymore. I've got to leave. I can't handle this account anymore. So when my nephew came on board and he took charge of that account, and she helped him, and that kind of saved my major client, because they were at that time about 30% of my revenue. So that was a big account. So that kind of saved my firm. And not only that, the lady that wanted to leave, but she can handle responsibility, she's still with me. And she's still working today with me. And she's been here more than 45 years, longer than I have. So that's a great example of law of attraction, where you don't go to the place of oh my God, she left. What am I going to do? Get anxiety, stress. My mind could go anywhere, but I didn't do that. I just said, I supported her, and just let her make her decisions. So that's a great example of law of attraction works. And like I said, this is like God's hand and footprint all over this. And I tell you another quick journey event that occurred. And I send you a photo of the sunrise at Mount Fuji.
I see it behind you too.
Yeah, I have it there, and I have it on the wall. And because it was an epic event, because it all started. where I wanted to go back to Japan to go to where I was born, because I was born there, but never stayed there. We moved to Hiroshima, when I was like 2 years old. So I didn't know Shimanokin area at all. So my uncle's been there. So he made an introduction to two cousins that lived there, Shimanokin. So I decided to go on my own to visit with him and see where my ancestor, because there's a samurai cemetery plot there also I went to visit. So I told my friend Josh that, hey, I'm going to go to Japan. He said, oh, yeah, I'm going to go, but this is my personal journey, so I'm going to go by myself. So we started talking. He said, well, let's go afterwards, and we'll go to Mount Fuji, climb Mount Fuji, because he likes to hike. I like to hike. So that's where discussion started.
How old were you?
I'm sorry?
How old were you when you
I
did?
was 72 when I climbed Mount Fuji, and it's about elevation's about 13,000 feet.
Mm-hmm.
So we started discussing about the trip, and the Mount Fuji opens on July 1st. That's when you could start the climb. And because during that there's typhoon seasons, a lot of issues. So I wanted to, because you need to get a guide, recommend to get a guide. So I wanted to go kind of early, first week in July if possible. And then my son-in-law, before it was when my son-in-law says, you know what, I have some commitment the first week in July, so I can't go. And my friend says, well, middle of July, I can't go because I have a major contract, annual contract I don't want to give up. So I said, okay, let's do it at the end of July then. So we decided towards the end of July, and we wanted to do it on Friday, Saturday, so that kind of fits the schedule better. But by that time, we couldn't get Friday, Saturday, so we decided best was Thursday, Friday, so it was set towards the end of July. And during this period of time, I do a lot of network events, and literally in the beginning of July, 4 health practitioners showed up in my life event. One was a Beamer, which is a energy technology Beamer. ASEA is a redox molecule to help you with your, your stamina and so forth. And then intuitive chiropractor came in my life, and essential oil person. So 4 of these people came towards the first week in July. So if we had gone first week of July, they wouldn't have been able to work with me. And the essential oil person recommended a peppermint oil for your altitude sickness, which I had issue with on my previous major hike. And then the Beamer girl just microdosed to improve my immune system. And the chiropractor, intuitive chiropractor, recommend different supplements for the hike. And ASEA water, again, that's for your immune system. So basically 4 people showed up that I wouldn't have access to if I decide for first week in July. So that was pretty amazing, that in itself. So we did the hike, and we went to Tokyo, and that's when we took a bus to the foot of the mountain. So if we had gone in the first week of July, they had a landslide there in Mount Fuji. So
Wow.
we would have been there, but we couldn't do the hike
Mm-hmm.
because there was a landslide. So then mid-July, there's still some issue clearing the mountain. So everything played out because of the events we did at the end of July, right? So we did that, and everything went well, and then we made it to the summit. It was a 2-day trip. So the first day was pretty, we're kind of going slow pace because it took us about 6-8 hours to get to the initial resting point. So we stayed overnight there, and during my stay, I had some excruciating pain in my leg, and I was cramping up, and I didn't sleep at all. And my mind was going crazy, like, what am I going to do? I won't be able to finish the hike. I don't want to let people down. You know how you go crazy. So then the morning came, and no pain, nothing. I felt fine. So we proceeded with the ascent and got there 3:34. And then that's when we saw the sunrise. We saw the photo of it. And literally 5 minutes after the sunrise, just downpour. It's like buckets of water came down. I mean, just poured on us. So they just waited for us to enjoy the sunrise, and it happened. And then the picture, I think you see a picture, but there was a, before the sun came up, there was a donut shape of the cloud, donut shape, meaning that there was a cloud that looks like a donut, and the center was open. So when the sun popped in, came up, it 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 went right into the donut hole, not left of it, right of it, up or bottom, perfectly fit in that donut hole. It was just amazing to watch how it just popped right in there. So again, like I said, the rain just downpoured 5 minutes after the sunrise. Then we made it down and got back to our hotel. The
Mm-hmm.
next day we were fine, had no pain, no aches, no nothing. And that was because of the sea water kind of helped me a lot. And then we took a taxi, and I speak the language. I was talking to him about that we hiked Mount Fuji, and he said it's great that you came back on Friday, because on Saturday typhoon came through and shut the mountain down. So in other words, we wanted Friday, Saturday, but because of we're going to get Thursday, Friday, so that kind of helped us. And then at my age, you would think I wouldn't have any kind of pains and aches, my knees or something, because when you're going downhill, you use different muscle group. I took knee support, but I had zero pain, nothing, no pain at all, no nothing. So it was everything just played out perfectly, meaning that I say it's like a million to one that it could unfold the way it did. So that kind of gave me more validation that you just let the universe take care of everything and just let it flow and allow, and don't have any resistance and fight it or anything. Just relax and everything will take care of itself. So that was a major, although I've been studying law of attraction, but this kind of cemented and more and more and more validated that it does work if you allow it to work. So you just kind of want to share with you, because I think that kind of uh, made a full circle to where I'm at today. And so yeah, I'm at pretty, peaceful, relaxed. And nothing seems to bother me, because I always tell people there's nothing in the outside world should affect you, period, nothing. Meaning that you should be in a state of total relaxation and peace, no matter what's going on in the external world. Whether it's, all the stuff we're seeing right now, chaos out there. And it could be, family issues, but it, again, it's all external. So everything, if you're internally, strong and stable, then you should have zero anxiety and stress. Period. So you evolve into the place of no anxiety, which is not an easy place to get to. I'm still working. Obviously, there's still things I'm still working on, but I'm getting closer and closer. So
Yeah.
anyway, that's my story about God's presence in our life.
Nice. I would love to ask you, so when you were growing up in Japan, was your family spiritual or very
No,
religious or anything like that?
no, no. This is all something that is kind of interesting, because like I grew up with my in a family where everything was muted. Nobody talked, period. My dad didn't talk very much. My mom didn't talk any much. So I thought this was normal, but obviously it's not. So I could go a whole week in my household when I was growing up in Japan, and even here in the US, where I wouldn't say anything. It would be zero communication, like nothing, which is kind of, later it was kind of amazing how our family with my mother, when we were on the farm, she had her sister and her brother lived together on the farm, separate homes, obviously. And my aunt lived right across the street from us, literally, just like 100 feet. And then my uncle was kind of on top of the hill. So he had four boys, and I had, and then, and I can remember during the whole time I was there until I went to school in LA, the three families, now we're talking about, siblings, three siblings, who never celebrated nothing under the same roof, nothing, period, which is kind of unusual if you think about it. And that's the environment I grew up in, where everyone was muted, we didn't talk, we didn't do anything. Families didn't get along, and you would think for Christmas, I think, oh, something you would think there's a reason to get together in one household and celebrate, right? So I never experienced that. So that's my background. So I was pretty muted most of my years through high school. The only thing that kept me going was my scholastically, I was up there so that people asked me questions. I wanted, that's the only reason why they would talk to me, because I could give them the answers, And I
But
was pretty active in sports, so that kept me going, meaning that,
yeah,
I survived basically.
but you were more of an introvert. Like
Yes, I was. Yeah, at
yeah,
that time, very
yeah.
introverted. I didn't say anything. I didn't talk. I didn't do anything. And then it took years. I think I started finally coming out at the age maybe 50, 55, where I started to, because my spiritual awakening got me started. And now I'm at a place where I could communicate, and I do a lot of networking events and
Mhm.
be interviewed on other shows. So I got, at least I'm able to communicate. Plus, I took uh, what's that word now? I can't remember now. But anyway, so I took some communication skills
Mhm.
that helped me get out of this shell. And then as an accountant, I didn't do any networking at all. It was all word of mouth and referral, but I never went to networking events. So I just talked to my nephew and say, "Hey, do you want me to grow the business?" And he said, "Sure. This, once you grow it." So I said, "Well, what did I do now? I got to start meeting with groups and networking." So which I did. Oh yeah, Toastmaster. I took Toastmaster for a year to get me ready for networking. So first I joined BNI, Business Network International. It's a networking group, and I was there for about 4 years, which we had to make presentations so forth. Then I joined Provisors, another more higher level networking group. Then currently I went to Leeds Group in Irvine, is another networking group in the Irvine Chamber, Irvine
Mhm.
Chamber. So I feel, very comfortable doing speaking events, and I don't get nervous, and worry about what am I going to talk about or stuff like that. It just kind of, I'm at a place where things starts flowing in terms of communication. So it took a long time to get to where I'm at right now, but at least I know, both sides of the life.
Yeah, that's true.
I could relate to anybody because I've done it, I've been there, I've seen it, I've done it, and right. So there's no one that I can't relate to because I've
Mhm.
done it personally. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I ask you, when you came from Japan to California, was that a hard transition for you?
No, no. It was because not, it wasn't hard transition, meaning that I didn't have anything in Japan, meaning that I was pretty muted.
Mhm.
So and coming to America was the same situation. It was more looking forward to something new, because then when I came here, we took a boat and landed in San Francisco. From Japan, we took actually a large, boat. And then my cousins were there across the street, so at least I was able to play with them. So I
That's
felt
true.
like it
That,
was it was more of a upgrade from my life in Japan,
that's
because I was totally muted. I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything. And Japanese cultures are different too. Kids can't say anything. They just stay quiet. If you're quiet, don't say anything, they say, "Oh, you're a good boy," so you don't cause any trouble.
I think even in America that was common, in the past, but
Right.
it's changed.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, they changed a lot now. They're very vocal, and they got
Yeah.
their rights and everything.
What about in Japan? Do you feel like it's changed too, or is it still that children are to be quiet?
Yeah, it's still changing. I think because the younger population, but they have they're in Japan. They have the samurai culture where they got bushido, and then big thing is to for the elderly, uh, show a lot of respect to the elderly. So let's say if you were 25 super genius, you can't get to the top because there's a hierarchy. So there's an age, respect for the age. So they don't if they put someone in a position that's a young person above you, then they feel offended, and that's a no-no for the culture, meaning that if you bring shame to your family, then in samurai culture, you got to commit suicide. Or let's say if you lose your job and you can't support your family, they jump in front of a train so they could get the insurance proceeds. So there's a lot of that going on because a lot of it's shame. You can't bring shame to your family or to yourself. And in samurai, if you did that, then you would. There's a story that's kind of interesting because there was two masters had a sword fight, and they had 100 disciples watching the sword fight, and their master won, and then showed respect to the other person that he killed. So all 100 students were dishonored by the masters, how he related to the opponent, that they all committed suicide because the master dishonored himself. Stuff like that is pretty big. Obviously, that was way back then, but now things are loosening up a little bit. But you can see where, just like during the World War II, you heard the kamikaze bombers, so they would go one way and there's no gas to come back. So this was again committed to the emperor, which was the god in Japan. So whatever he said went, and they were happy to die for the emperor. They did it willingly, not they didn't. They said, "Well, I don't want to do this," but because of honor, they willingly committed suicide for the cause, for the benefit of their. So there's a lot of those cultures that suppresses you, I think, and then you got to kind of get out of that's holding on to you, right? So it takes a lot of work to do that. Some people may never be able to get away from that because that's kind of holding you back, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you feel like you raised your children differently?
Yeah, I raised my children differently, and and like I said, my main communication with them was coaching them in basketball. Mm-hmm. And I was more hands-on, meaning that I never told my kids what to do. In fact, I had a lot of conflict with my wife because I was more free spirit. So when my wife says, as an example, make sure you're home by 11:30, I said, just 1 o'clock is fine. And then she get really mad at me. And then so you heard all of this Asian culture. You had the helicopter mom hovering over, and they're really strict about doing this, doing that. I was totally opposite, meaning that I never told my kids what to do, meaning what kind of profession they should study. Or I never told my son to become a CPA. I just, I'm a Gandhian, meaning you be the example that you want to see in others. So I really practice Gandhiism. So I don't tell people what to do. And that's the way I kind of grew up with my kids. So my son, I never told him to become a CPA, but he became a CPA. And my other daughter, again, I never told my kids to do anything. My other daughter went into accounting and finance, studied that. And then she's been with me about 14 years now. She works in my firm. My second daughter became a school teacher. And then she did it for about 8 years. This is another law of attraction fund, actually. There was no jobs in Orange County during the time she graduated from Long Beach. So she went to San Jose and got a job in San Jose. And then after the first year, she wanted to quit already because it was very, very stressful. But she hung out for 8 years, and she was literally getting sick because all the pressure from teaching and all the administration, the parents, all kinds of stuff going on now. You can't discipline the kids, right? So she was, she would come home, grade papers, and I said, "What are you doing?" Let somebody else. And no, I got it. She's very conscientious too, which makes it even more difficult. So after by years, I just said, look, why don't you work for me? And when I asked her to work for me, I didn't have a position for her. I had enough staff. I didn't even go like, what is she gonna do? Because I had a full staff. And literally within 6 months of that, my partner of 40 years decided to retire. So that opened up a position for him. So when I offered a job, I didn't have a position for him, but everything just worked out, you know.
Yeah, when you were coming from love. Yeah, and caring.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then she was staying in a job that wasn't fulfilling or making her happy. So then she was starting, it affects your health,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
your
She was really
mental
in bad shape with, digestive issues, stress, anxiety, and all kinds of issues. So now she's here. She usually comes in at 12 o'clock for lunch, then starts her day. Everyone has a different schedule, so I don't have any. As
Isn't
an
it nice
accountant,
too?
as an accountant, I'm very open, meaning that some of the staff, I say, hey, where's Mark? And it's, oh, he's in Hawaii right now. He never asks me. They just do whatever they want. And then I'm okay. My thing, bottom line, as long as the work gets done, I get no complaints from my client. You do whatever you want. And this gives them a lot of freedom, and I don't have to micromanage them, right? I don't have to discipline them. In all my 45 years of practice, I was a managing partner, so I only had to fire 2 people. And one person was my previous partner, the one that I joined the firm, Takinaga. That was his son. And then he would, he wouldn't work. He'd just play games. He'll play solitaire on the computer, and I don't tell him what to do. So he just did whatever he wanted. He didn't hardly work at all. So finally, I told him, I just need to, you have to move on here. And his comment to me was, "Oh, thank you. You should have fired me 2 years ago," because he knew he wasn't working.
Yeah.
you know. So things like that, So everyone kind of leaves on their own without me. I have another situation, this girl that, with me about 15 years, and she hardly worked at all either. And everybody knew that. She would play around on the phone. Maybe she worked 2 hours a day. That was more than most people. For her, it was a lot. And everybody knew that, but I never said anything. And one time it was kind of interesting because she was on the conference room uh, on the computer, searching AOL and doing personal stuff on the computer. And I said, well, don't you think you should do that at home? And she just barked back on me, said, I don't have time at home. So she just continued to do it. Like nobody was afraid of me. So they just did whatever they wanted. And then I just let it happen because there's a higher place meaning for her. So I just let her be. And then then eventually she decided to find another job. So I blessed her and let her get another job, and I took care of her. And even after that, and she was getting pretty nasty with me too, because I think she kind of knew she was going to leave, so she could be aggressive with me. And if I tell her to do, she'll just start yelling at me, basically, what she did. Yeah. So, so, so she finally moved on, and again, it worked out because that created a position for my first daughter to move into her spot. And then, I was nice. I gave her a computer, laptop computer, as a going away present. And I even gave her, I let her use the keys to my office because she does hula dancing. So she had a keys to my office. She could come in, come and go as she will, do hula dancing. And so I kind of, let her, wished her well and took care of it. And as a result of that, one thing major happened was that she introduced me to one of her girlfriend's husband, who's an attorney. So we got that client as attorney client. And so from that attorney client, one person left, so he formed another firm of his own. So that's my second attorney client. And then they refer me to another attorney group. So now I got 3 attorney firms, and they generate, good revenues for me, and because of her. But how karma just, I took care of her. I never got, like I never started barking and screaming at her. I just let her do what she wants. She just left alone, and then all these customers came in because of her. So things like that. It just all
Interesting.
works out. Yeah.
Amazing. Can you explain what is a holistic accountant?
Okay. Basically, the way that holistic accounting I branded that was because when I joined BNI, that's the networking event, and then every person does a 10-minute presentation, and we rotate it. So the president at the time said, he wasn't looking at me, he just said, when you do your presentation, make it very interesting. And don't be like an accountant talking about tax law. And okay, I'm a tax accountant, I do tax prep. What am I going to talk about? So I just thought about what should I talk about? And then light bulb went on, and I said, I'm going to talk about holistic accounting, and it's all centered on law of attraction. So I did talk about taxes, but I sprinkled it with the law of attraction story. So that became very popular. So they were getting I was a mentor in the group, so I was kind of mentoring them as well, talking about law of attraction, how that works and everything. So holistic accounting was branded because of that event. And what's kind of interesting, as an accountant, CPA, we're very stereotyped. There's a lot of stereotype stories where we're not interesting, we're closed-minded, they're no fun, they don't do anything. They just got the nose to the grind and working, right? So that's the image they have as an accountant. So when I used to go networking event, they always ask, what do you do? And I know I'm a CPA, then they kind of look at me and they just about face and they leave. So I know what you do. Fun.
Yeah.
So then when I started talking about holistic accounting, then they said, because no one's heard of it. There's nobody that's doing it except me. Then I get their attention, then they say holistic account. I start explaining holistic account is all about, accounts that generate financial statement, do the books and give it to the client. And the client doesn't know what to do with it because they only need it because the banker wants it or creditor wants it, but they just kind of throw it away. So I'm not serving any kind of purpose to the client because anyone could do that. So I'm more about forward looking. The decision you make today would decide what your company is going to be in the future. So I say things like, I think Starbucks mentors CEO said this. So when you build the people build the company, meaning focus on the people, meaning a lot of these company has a budget for marketing budgets, social media, but they don't really work on the people. So if they, instead of throwing the money away, they will work with the people. And then you get the loyalty and trust and absenteeism will go down and they'll want to work for you. And not only that, if you leave them alone, the creativity will sky high because in a workplace, I've experienced the person too. In the workplace, a lot of its employees work in a state of fear, meaning that their supervisor, somebody's yelling at them, well, you got to get this done. And then they're always worried about getting fired. That's always on top. Although they may be doing well, they still think, well, they could fire me anytime, right? So when you have fear in the workplace, creativity drops, right? And people don't want to be there. As opposed to if you work on the people and support them, then they want to work for you, and then you have sustainability. You reduce your absenteeism, you reduce your turnover, which costs money that they don't think about. So that's all part of holistic accounting is working with the people and not so much, the technical stuff. And then by doing that, I think your company will move forward more profitable and it's more sustainable. So that's the whole idea of a holistic accounting is to get the company in a place where it'd be a fun place to be. And the one thing that always kills it is the owner, the shareholder, because they get such big ego that if something runs smoothly, well, they don't need me, run everything going smoothly without me. So they like to, kind of rule with the iron hand, and you do this, you do that, and they kind of dissipate through the supervisor managers. Everyone's telling people what to do, right? And that's the worst place to be, I think. I think if you allow people to be themselves and give them the support, and it's just, I say things like, do some random act of kindness is what I call about. It's just like when one of the employees, maybe their parents sick, the kid's sick, maybe give them a special gift, or like, help them out, right? Give them a small bonus to help. Things like that goes a long ways, as opposed to if you have a bonus always on December 15th, they always expect that. So it doesn't mean anything anymore. If they don't get it, they get really upset, right? Because December 15th, I get a bonus every year. So it doesn't mean anything anymore. So you do random act of kindness. Anytime during the year, someone has an issue with health, a struggle, or whatever, you got to get to know them personally. Then you do something to help them out. Either give them additional monies, or give them a gift card, or whatever. But that kind of shows you that you care about your people, right? Your staff.
Yeah.
And if you do that, that goes a long ways more. And then it's just like a lot of people, I work, sometimes if they get a better pay working for somebody else, they may not go there because they want to be here, because it's become the family, and they enjoy it. They want to come to work. They
Yes.
enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
And then I did different. I had some ideas. Like I have an elliptical machine, and I told them, if you do so many in so many minutes, you get a $1,000 bonus. So then they're on an elliptical machine, practice, practice, things like that. And I have this other idea I haven't implemented yet, but the other I thought it was kind of ingenious idea was I was going to get everybody a goldfish. Okay, everybody gets a goldfish. So whoever could keep the goldfish alive, they gotta leave it in the office. Because goldfish, they don't live for a long time, right? So whoever goldfish is the last goldfish to be alive, I could do, like first, second, third, I will give you a bonus of $1,000 or something. So this will give them a sense of nurturing and taking care of something. A lot of people don't have that. They don't take care of anything, right? They want to be taken care of versus taking care of something. So just even a goldfish, if they, take care of the goldfish, do the feeding, talk to them, whatever.
Yeah.
And if they live the longest, and they get a $5,000 bonus or something. I thought that was a kind of
I like that idea.
creative idea,
Yes.
just to help them take care of something,
Yes.
because most people don't take care of anything. So they just have a hard time taking care of themselves, let
That's a really
alone
good
something
point.
else, right?
Yeah. So how do you nurture creativity in a work environment?
I think like the creativity that's when you give them complete freedom.
Okay.
Okay. And then, I mean, for a larger company, I would recommend having small groups as opposed to one large group of people. And so then you kind of uh, get to the place, like I said, where they're free to do whatever they want in terms of creativity. I think Google or Facebook, one of those companies, they allow one day where they could do whatever they want, and make creative ideas. So by giving total freedom, and not over the controlling them, then, and there's absence of fear in the workplace, the creativity go up. Just by doing that alone, creativity would increase, because now they're free to make decision, because even if make a wrong decision, nobody's going to be upset at you, because they're so fearful of making a wrong decision that they don't want to do anything, right? It's better not to do anything and do something, and it didn't work out, so then you get reprimanded. So I always say things like success and failure
Yeah.
is my model, because I have one of my employees made a mistake on some tax return. There was a penalty of like $800. So she was came to me and said, I said, don't worry about it. It's only money. So what? I didn't say don't do it again, because that's what most people do. But they already know, so you don't have to do that. the parents they always say, don't do it again. Make sure it never happens. No, you don't say that because they know already, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people say that. If you notice, when people reprimand somebody, even my wife does to me, say, don't make sure you don't do it again. Or she'll say, make sure you don't drop it. Like, I'm gonna drop it, right? I mean, they're always telling you what to do.
Yeah,
You
that's
know, you know how that works. You
yeah.
know people. I'm sure you know people. I know people that it's more like they got they got this habit, what they call blind spot. What they say, they don't even know they say it. It just comes out automatically because that's who they are, right?
Mhm.
So things like that, I try not to do things that reinforce negativity.
Mhm.
So I always
I
say
like
things,
that point.
then they have, cup is always half full. It's always never empty. Always there's always a bright side to every event that occurs. That's where in the law it just contrasts. So if something negative happens, that gives you a desire to do something to counteract negativity that happens. So
Mhm.
you could bless that negative event. And as you know, you always say people that button pushers, they always get on your nerve and they push your button, right? You know those people that always saying stuff that irritates you, but you should bless them because they give you opportunity for you to deal with that with no judgment, no stress, no nothing. So they are in your life to help you, evolve so that you should uh, bless those button pushers in your life because they're there to help you, evolve. But if you take it negatively, then it's going to bring you down together with them, right? But you start screaming at each other. What are you doing that for?
Yeah.
Right? So it never works. So you have to get past that.
Yeah. And then in a work environment, how do you have like the company be open to people wanting to make changes or wanting to say have their voice heard? So how, because I love that being open to creativity because then you have all these people who probably have fantastic ideas about how to run
Hmm.
the company better.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, basically, we don't have any formal meetings to talk about these things. So kind of my partner, he's my nephew. He's a little bit more hands-on than I am. So he sees my management style and he's saying, well, we should do this, be a little bit more uh,
Structured.
strict and have some kind of guidelines or formula to follow. But I
Hmm.
never do that. So I'm having to adjust to accommodate him. He's my partner. So we talk about implementing meetings where people talk about what things they do that make you more efficient in the workplace. There's a
Hmm.
lot of things that everyone does that makes them more efficient, right? Like my office is totally clean, nothing anywhere. But a lot of my staff, they got books and paper everywhere. So I try to keep my mouth shut. That's the way they do things.
Yeah, I like that. I think there's a saying, there well, it isn't there isn't just one way to do something. So I like to
Correct.
think about that because, like what we feel everybody should do something the way we want it to be done. So
Mhm.
it's better to like you say, let that go because there's so many ways to do
Yeah,
something.
yeah, because as you know, every person, what they call filter in their mind, that they see the world through their own filter. So every person has different filters. So when you look at the same thing, they see it differently than I do. So they
Hmm.
have their own style that's comfortable for them.
Hmm.
Obviously, there's certain things that can help them. And, I had my daughter, teach me something that she did that really helped me become more efficient and organized. So
Hmm.
you always learn from other people, right? Yeah.
So when you work with companies, do you do mentoring, I take it, to kind of help
Mhm.
them
Yeah.
run
For
it?
those people that's open to it. I
Yes.
don't force anything on anybody, so I always get permission.
Hmm.
I mean, so even with my friends, we have uh, agreement that if there's something that you see that you think you shouldn't do, to let each other know, so that we know that, so it's not like I'm trying to, beat up on my friends or something, tell them what to do. So we have that standing agreement, so that if there's something that we see you doing constantly that maybe you shouldn't do, like, saying certain things at a certain time, so we catch each other.
Okay.
And you can do that with workers also. So there's an understanding that when I say something, it's not that I'm reprimanding you, I'm just pointing something up, and you could either do it or not do it. I never force people to do certain thing a certain way. It's more like they got digested and say, oh, yeah, maybe you sound right. Maybe I should change. But it's their decision. But I don't ever tell anybody what to do.
Do you ask your employees to study about the law of attraction, or to do any courses, or no?
I don't talk to anybody about law of attraction.
You just kind of live your life like that.
Yeah, live my life. That's the Gandhian, like be the change and you want to see another. So sometimes I talk to my nephew, because he's open to it. But and then there's obviously, religion and their belief systems are totally different. So when you talk about law of attraction, it's an area that conflicts with, let's say, Christianity or Catholicism. So there's a conflict there. Right? So they got to decide on their own to make that switch or not make the switch.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes those two don't coexist too well.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about anything else about the law of attraction for people, like some main points? I know you've touched on it, but maybe like a small summary of how it would help people to live their life like that.
Yeah, basically, I think first I have to kind of explain how it works so they have understanding. So basically, our mind is so powerful, meaning that, thought becomes things from way back then. So let's say you have the telephone tower, which are linear. Like when the telephone tower gets further away, the signal gets less and less, right? Unlike the part of your mind, when you have a thought, instantaneously, people around the world gets it. It's there. So they received it already subconsciously. Whatever you say, it's all over the world. It's out there. And then a good example. This was all proven by quantum physics and Einstein and people that geniuses, that it does your thought. It travels all over the world. So they have common when the butterfly, flaps its wing, and it's heard around the world. That's the way our brain thoughts are so powerful. That's what they say. Things that be careful what you say, because it does affect people, and that's one thing that you have to remember about how powerful your thoughts are. That's the way the law of attraction works. So as you know, simply stated, like attracts like, right? So it's all about vibration and frequency and energy, because everything vibration frequency, even the table, the desk, the flower, yourself, everything at the lowest denominator, it's all vibration frequency. That's all it is. And it's only the little things that makes you, us, a human being, and this is a table. But 95% of it, it's all the same. It's all vibration and frequency. So that's where the whole guide to law of attraction to work in your life is to keep your frequency and vibration as high every moment in time. That's why when you get angry and upset, your energy and frequency collapses. That's why law of attraction doesn't work, because your energy, your frequency is not there. So like even good diet, prescription drugs will lower your frequency and your energy. So you try to get off of drugs and so forth. And then it's your thought process, meaning that when someone says, what's the most important goal you should have? Most important goal for anyone to have? It's simply being happy. That's it. Then everything else will be a byproduct. Like if you could be happy every moment in time, or being appreciation, love and appreciation of, like you see a flower and you appreciate the flower, or you turn on the keys to your car and the car starts. Do you ever say, thank you, car? Right? You appreciate the car that it took me from A to Z. Well, most people don't do that. But there's so many things that you can be appreciative, all right? So that would, again, keep your frequency and vibration high. So those are the things that you remember, is to set your goal just to be happy and appreciate things and start doing things. And for a lot of people, it's not easy to be in that place of happiness, because the life throws a lot of stuff at you, right? That's why when I talk to people, I said, start with something very small that you could appreciate. And like I told about taking care of goldfish, or taking care of plants, or something life that you could take your life. I could show you maybe let me show you my office right now. So you
Okay.
can see how my office looks like. Hold on. Can you see the plants there?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah, here's my aquarium. See the
Beautiful.
aquarium? And
Yeah.
here's my plants here.
Mm-hmm.
So those things that you could surround yourself and take care of something is a good place to start. Just start with something small, like cacti or anything. It doesn't matter what it is. It's something that you have to nurture, water, and that will get you in a certain place of appreciation and to love some. That's why dogs and pets are very important to people. So, but if you don't have a dog and pet, we'll start with anything. Plant is a good place to start. So that's why I recommend that you just start being a caretaker of something.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
And that put you put you in a good place.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, there's so many things that you could be appreciative of here.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you start doing that, and you allow things to happen, meaning that you have no resistance in your thought pattern. So since you have no resistance, then all these stuff could come in from out there. Just like a lot of people say, I can't, I don't have any money, I can't find a mate. By saying that, the energy already collapsed, right? So you get to the place of what I call nothingness, meaning that you have no thoughts, no nothing, but you put it out there, meaning I'd like to find a nice mate, blah, blah, blah. And once you do that, you don't have to do it anymore. And then I always say, when you first start the process, it's like having a bicycle with training wheels. So you got to go through the certain step, like setting goals maybe, and then doing affirmation. You hear a lot about affirmation, setting goals, and things like that, right? But once you get past that, or they think, they say, well, create a collage of things you want. You hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Set goals, this, and that. But once you get past that training wheel, those are training wheels. You need to just get rid of it. The worst thing you could do is setting goals is the worst thing you could do, because it puts you in a place of anxiety, because they always say, pick a day, the time, amount, blah, blah, blah. So you say, I'm going to lose 50 pounds or 20 pounds by this and this and day. Then they come and nothing happens. Then you beat yourself up because what's wrong with me? I can't keep to my diet. Then see, so it becomes a negative. So I always tell people, maybe at the beginning you should set goals, but you should try not to set goals. Just be open.
Right. So keeping yourself in appreciation for things that you have,
Mm-hmm.
and then letting go. Like maybe you set an intention of something that you would like, just put it out there, but then just let it go. Don't
even think about it anymore. It's out there already. Universe knows that you may, you ask and it is given in the Bible, right? So you just ask and just forget about it. It's already out there. You don't have to ask every day. A lot of people look in the mirror and say, I love you, you're great, right? No, I mean, some people obviously tell you to do that, but you don't need to do any of that stuff once you evolve. At the beginning, you need to, obviously, but you try to continue to progress, or you start letting go of all those crutches,
Yeah, and it sounds like when you're dealing with people that you get upset about, it's trying not to have like an expectation of how things are gonna
Correct.
happen. It's just being in the flow, it sounds like.
Yeah, exactly. So have no expectation, no conditional, no nothing, Like when someone borrows money, don't expect to get it back, I mean, have no expectation. You're giving it freely. There's the thing that you can't give what you don't have. Like if you don't love yourself, how can you love somebody? Because you don't have love to give, right? It all comes from within what you have to be able to communicate that and to somebody. So that's to me, that's very critical. It's just like when you have a lot of times when you have an office meeting, they have agendas, Yeah, we're going to do this, and that. And then once you have agenda, it closes to other possibilities that you didn't even know that's out there because you're so focused on your agenda. So I always, like when I meet with new clients, and I always tell, just have a conversation with no agenda. We just start talking, and it take us to all different places that you never thought to ask. So like people go through 4 phases, they call it. The first phase is unconscious incompetence. You don't know what you don't know. So when someone tells you, then you become consciously incompetent. Now you know that you don't know, right? So then the next step would be consciously competent. Now you've done it, so you're conscious, you know you could do it. So the final stage is where you're unconsciously competent, meaning that you don't have to think about it, you just do it without thought. Just like, tying your shoelaces, you don't have to think about tying your shoelaces, but you have to go through the process, but you get, ultimate place to get to is unconscious competence. So you kind of go through the 4 stages of learning. So my job is the first stage is to, I look like a metaphor, like a crowbar, is you trying to uncover what they don't know to ask. They don't know to ask this question because they never thought about it. They don't know enough to ask that question. So that's where the person that is good is a person that could open up the unconscious incompetent. So now they know that they need to do this. Otherwise, they never do it because they don't know even to think about doing this. So all through conversations, you could start opening up a lot of possibilities that they didn't even think about, right?
And it's also staying in the moment and listening.
Yeah, stay in the moment, yeah, and then
Yeah.
and then a lot of area that I'm not trying to beat up psychiatrists, but the reason why it doesn't work, meaning that they've been seeing psychiatrists, you hear 10 years, 15 years, they keep going. And the reason why it doesn't work is they're always focusing on the past. And you should never do that. Like hypnosis, everything goes to the past. Because when you do that, you're focusing on the issue you have, so you attract more of that. Because in our channel, whatever you focus on is what you're going to attract. So when they focus on what happened in your childhood, you got beaten up or got abused, then you're reliving that, which creates more issues, right? You focus on it so that more of that will show up. So that's why it never worked, because like when you're right here, you're right here, right? That's a combination. Everything that's happened to during your previous life, current life, it's all of that is who you are right now. So you're already here, and the now is everything that's happened to you right now. So you don't need to talk about the past because you're already here, and that's already reflect who you are from all the things that happened to you, right? So you work on the now and going forward, then you can start seeing some results, I think.
It's a really good point. So you also have a nonprofit that you call Plant a Seed Institute. Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, basically what it is, it started again at the BNI. I kind of
When you say that,
created that.
BNI, what
It's
is
a it's called Business Network International.
that?
It's a
Okay.
global organization. So let's say if you go to Japan, they have a BNI, and then in the it's conducted identical to the one in the U.S. So they all do the same thing because they have a program that works. Very effective.
Okay.
So business, it's called Business Network International. So
Okay.
that's where I incubate this. Again, not a lot of attraction, meaning that when I showed up, there was one member that helps form nonprofit organization. So I start sharing with her, and I share with all the members, and the 8 of us got together actually to start the Planet Seed Institute. And it's all about mentoring millennial kids. We have 8 months professional program, and it's been challenging with millennial because they can't sit still for a second. So we kind of pivoting right now, and the coronavirus came down, so it's still there. We're gonna continue with it. But it was all about mentoring, and then we have about 15 mentors on the website. It's all everything voluntary, no charge. It's all free. And if they go through a program, we give them 3 books, and they could take Toastmaster for free for 1 year, but no one's ever, take us up on an offer. And and then we could do one-to-one mentoring. And there's no age barrier. So let's say you could be 75 years old, there's somebody on the website you want to talk to, you just call them and have a conversation. There's no charge, it's all free and voluntary. So about 2 years ago, I had an aha moment, and I said, look, maybe we should do what we call reverse mentoring, meaning that we have young kids in the 20s and 30s who mentor elderly, like we go to the senior centers, because they need someone to talk to, how to use the phone, the laptop. And then if they ask the kids, they're just going to blow them off and say, hey, you're stupid, It's easy, do this, it's done. So they have no patience, right? So I think there's a real need for that because the elderly need someone that's very patient with them. And then, so we want to launch that project once everything opens up and recruit some young people to work with the elderly. I think that'd be easier to get into because there's a lot of elderly senior centers, right? I think they will want to talk, because they're lonely too. They want to talk to young people. So I
Yes.
think this would be a perfect way to reach out to them. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love
So
that idea.
that's the next launch that we're going to work on once everything kind of settles down a little bit.
Yeah. Well, why we were talking of why you mentioned the coronavirus, what is your feeling on that?
Well, I think there's obviously both sides to the equation to coronavirus. I think everyone should do their own part to, like social distancing, wearing a mask. And some people have ego issues, so I don't need the mask. And, they try to pretend like they're strong and that's more feminine type. So there's a lot of egos involved. And then globally, they always say things like, the cure is worse than the problem, meaning that by doing all the lockdown and restriction, you can't get together. And then that's creating all kinds of issue, anxiety, stress, people drinking drugs and suicide. So once we count exactly what's going on, then I think we can make a better decision. And they always talk about the infection rate, but we don't really know what the death rate is. They never talk about the death rate. So it's more like a
Fear.
global fear campaign
Yeah.
to control the populace. And I think once we get the therapeutic cure and the vaccine, I think things will obviously open up. But in the meantime, the draconian lockdown, I don't think is fair to everybody because lives are being destroyed, jobs and restaurants especially, they're never gonna survive and come back anymore. So there's gonna be a lot of human sacrifices and they may not make it. Yeah, because here you're doing pretty well and having a good living, all of a sudden it's all gone,
Right.
right? And it's hard to, and most people don't have enough investment savings to kind of bridge them over. So that's where I think a lot of, and then a lot of divorces, conflict, having to live close together, and so that's all going on too. So it's a tragedy. I'm not saying the virus doesn't exist. It's out there because people are getting infected. I think if you do your part, I think we can manage it better. I think.
Yes. Yes. Um, I like to ask people what life advice they would like to share, even though I know you've said many.
I
Yes.
think we covered a lot of that.
Right.
If I were to just crystallize it into one statement, is again very simple. Be happy. That's it. Keep it very simple. Whatever it takes for you to be happy, do that.
Okay. Choose
Yeah,
things that make you happy.
yeah. Just and you could go back and put yourself in a happy place. Let's say
Hmm.
you go back to your life from day one and you miss many events in your life that you were totally ecstatically happy. You were just joy, busting out with laughter or fun, and then carry that image. So whenever you have anxiety, stress, just go to that place so that you could get your frequency vibration up and be happy. So I think the whole key is like happy. Obviously, happy is the key, but then love and appreciation is the other underlying factor also. That becomes all part of it.
Yeah. That was,
Those are the three words. Like happy, love, and appreciation. If you could get to those three words and really understand it, not just to say it, but just to understand it at the deeper inside level from the heart place,
yeah.
is a key. Yeah, once you could get to inner being to embrace those words and really experience it, because when I have a yogi in my office I brought from India, and I have a yoga studio I created in my office, so we have a lot of conversation. He's one of the best yogis in the U.S., I would say. He has that kind of ability. So we have a lot of discussions every day because he lives right in my office. He sleeps in my office, actually. I have a yoga studio in my office. So I'm just creating what they call beauty and wellness center right in my office. But anyway, so when we talk, and then when you have a conversation that touches you, you start getting goosebumps. I haven't taken a survey to see how many times you have a goosebump event. If you get goosebump, then you're on the right track. I haven't taken a survey. It'd be interesting to find out how
Yeah.
many people actually experience goosebumps. And the only way you can experience it is when you touch a subject, that heartfelt subject, and then you get goosebumps. And we get that all the time when we talk. You get goosebumps
Uh,
all the time because it's all about, like let's say a plant, the leaf, withers, and I have to pick it off the plant. And I would just go to a ritual and thanking and appreciating the leaf for bringing clean air to my office, right? And the beauty that it's given me. And I just said, rest in peace. And I throw it away. So see, that gives me goosebumps right now. So when I share that with my yogi friend, he gets goosebumps. So things like that touches you in a certain way, and the more you can have that kind of conversation with people, then you're on the right track, I think.
mm,
I've never done a survey to ask people, I don't know if that's a good question to ask, how many
I
times
like
you get
it.
goosebumps in a day. But I think that's a good indicator
Yes.
of whether you're on the right track, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
I don't think anyone, maybe there's someone done research in that
Yeah.
area, but it'd be interesting to see how many people experience goosebumps in a daily life, or maybe none. Maybe the whole month with no goosebumps, meaning that they haven't had a heart-to-heart conversation, or or not. It doesn't have to be with another person.
Inspiration.
It could be with nature too,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's such a great point. I'm glad you said that. And I'm going to ask you a final question. What do you feel humanity needs to work on to make our world a better place?
Well, I think again, it's a big question. I have another project I want to share with you could help with this as well. But I think it's obviously being kind to each other and accepting them as who they are, right? And I always say that even if you through your filter, this person is evil person, but not to see them as evil, but appreciate them as who they are, and they're doing the best in what they know themselves when they grew up. So they're doing the best love that they could give, but we don't interpret that as love from our filter. But they're doing the best they can to appreciate them for who they are, and not at each other's throat. So we have a lot of obviously a lot of opinions of how we should live our life. So, you got all these religions telling you all different things, but they're conflicting. So what's the purpose of that? They all try to do what's best for them and for them at work. So just leave them alone. And then there's another project that just came in about 6 months ago. I've been sharing people. Actually, people really like it. So it's going to be called the 100-Year Tour. Okay, what it is like when a person that's 100 gets interviewed, the first question they ask is, what is your secret? So I want to have a group of 100-year-old.
Oh, yeah.
When I turn 100, create a nonprofit organization. We'll get sponsored from the health industry because they'll benefit by, saying, well, I did this, so I bought this, so that's why I'm healthy, and then financially benefit. So what it's all about is, because people don't have purpose in life. So I always, a lot of my elderly clients, it's like every year they come say, hey, what's new? Nothing, I'm still alive. So what the hell is that? That's no fun. So I call that slow suicide because they have no purpose in life. So if I explain the 100-year tour, you want to go on this tour, then they have to, take care of themselves, right? And then look forward to what this is going to look like because they're going to travel all over the world or exotic places. So they want to be on this tour. So in order to be on the tour, they have to, make it to 100. So we'll have Zoom calls as we get close to 90 and share each other. What are you doing to stay healthy? And then, create a community. And I always say the first place people, when I mentor people, you always work what's between the years. You have to work on that first. Because if you don't work on what's between the years, nothing's going to get done, right? So another meaning that if they always say the number one killer is stress. You hear that a lot. Number one killer is stress. So that's where we work on the stress factor to coach them, meaning that if you're judgmental, you get upset at people, you get angry, that's creating stress, right? So by letting them realize that you can eliminate stress in life, and they become a better person, meaning no judgment, no getting upset, being calm and relaxed to reduce the stress and do whatever it takes to reduce the stress. Go on the walks and love and appreciate that we talked about. And I think that will, if it catches on globally, hopefully people be nice to each other because they want to live to be 100 with purpose.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
So I've been sharing that. Actually, people like that idea of the 100-year tour. So
Yes.
yeah, so
Yeah.
it's in the process. Obviously I'm not 100 yet, so I got a few more years to work on this to put it together.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. I think we need to, have people appreciate their life when they're older
Mhm.
and not feel like, oh, I'm old, I can't do anything. I mean,
Right.
it's a thought process
Mhm.
that's creating that for
Yeah,
them. So
exactly.
yeah, I think, yeah, and I love the idea of having like the younger millennials working
Mhm.
with and mentoring the older people. I mean, just the connection of having the older generation interacting more with the younger
And
generation.
because the other thing I might have mentioned is the second nonprofit, which I started already, called the Ashram, like a healing center. So
Hmm.
we're going to create a place where people could stay there, work there. We're going to have, farming, animals, every color, rainbow color, trees and bushes, and they could have a tiny home that they could stay there, buy into. And then we have yoga and other modality of health real quickly. Now, what it does, because a lot of times I see such a conflict between the elderly and the kids, where the kids don't want to be with the elderly. In other words, if they go to assisted living, they don't want to go there, right? It's depressing. So can you imagine coming to a place where you got beautiful colors, all the farms, vegetable, gardening, waterfall, and then your grandpa and grandma's there, and the kids would come to greet them, and they could play with the animals, do farming, and all kinds of activity, right? So they want to come to our place. So we want to start something and be a template for globally, so that would address older population where the options aren't very good. The home care, you got assisted living, and board and care. And so I think this is a place where they could come to, and then they can buy into our project and have their, employees or families come, and they could do yoga and, learn about farming and all that stuff. So
Yes.
that's my second nonprofit on work on that one. I think will help humanity as well.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yes. Well, thank you, Sam.
It was a pleasure. I appreciate you taking time to interview me.
You're welcome. I
Okay.
loved everything that you shared, and I know it will help people.
Okay, great.